Hello everyone, this is Amanda Fernandez. This is the fourth answer to the final exam, and I'm hopeful that I answered the question correctly. So I just titled this video the PSPHTC development, or if you want to just make it simple, the spelling development. So this is just all the different ways that teachers can basically teach spelling. So first things first, we have pre-communicative, how do I want to put it? The pre-communicative step of development. This is kind of like the first basic developmental structure in spelling. And the pre-communicative structure is teach letter names and sounds. So this is where we're introducing students all the alphabet basically. This is like your preschool, pre-K, TK, kindergarten type classes where you are teaching students sound and letter names before they even start spelling out words. Or if you even want to take it a step further, you're introducing small words with all the different letters inside of those words. So for example, this might look like as, let's say we're teaching the letter C today in kindergarten class. And you as the teacher, or in my case, I as the teacher, would go, okay class, today we're going to be talking about the letter C. And the letter C makes a funny sound. The sound goes like this. Listen, use your listening ears, okay? K, k, k. C. K, k, k. The C makes a k, k, k sound like in cookie or cat. So that's kind of what the pre-communicative developmental step is. It's that basic word before the actual word structuring. Next one, we have the semi-phonetic structure. So the definition for this one that the teacher gave us was more interactive writing, drawing out the sounds to improve students' phonetic accuracy. This is a little bit difficult, in my opinion, to interpret, but what I'm kind of thinking of is kind of pictures that go along with the sound of a letter. So for instance, let's say we have the picture of like a dog, and we put that under the letter D in the classroom, okay? So when we point out the letter D to the class, we can say, okay class, today we're going to be focusing on the letter D. Who knows what this picture is? And most of the class should be able to say, oh, that's a dog or a doggy, Miss Fernandez or Mr. So-and-so. And we can obviously praise the students. Yes, correct, Delilah or Samuel. That is a dog. And the dog is under a very special letter that goes with it. Then in this case, we have the letter D. And the D makes this particular sound. D, 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 as in dog. And obviously, we'd probably point to the picture dog instead of the word dog. Although you could probably have the word dog under it. But in this case, we are associating a picture with a letter sound when we do that. So d, 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 as in dog, just like this picture, or what you see on the street. D, 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 dog. So when you see that letter, whatever that word is, like dandelion, although that's probably too difficult for like preschoolers and kindergartners, but when you see that letter, the sound that goes with it is d, 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 like in dog. Or obviously, like you can obviously draw out what the letter looks like, so like the letter D. In this case, you don't have to worry about like capital versus lowercase yet. You're just trying to get them to associate the sound with the letter. Alright, next one is phonetic. This one is also a little bit tricky to decipher, but phonetic, according to the teacher's definition or the professor's definition, is focus more on visual aspects of words. So I think in this case, what he's trying to say, or at least what this definition is trying to say, is when you break down the word or a word, each letter has its own distinct sound. So, for example, let's take the word cat. I feel like that one would be an easier way to explain this. When we break down the word cat, just by each simple letter, we have C, which is k, the k sound, the A in the middle, which is the a, or sound, and then the T, which is the t sound. So k, cat. So that's kind of, I think, what it is saying is focus more on visual aspects of words. So not only are like students visually seeing what the word cat might look like. So sorry. So I don't know if you can see that. Sorry. So cat. So we have the C, the A, and the T. But then we also have to associate that each symbol that the student wrote out. So here's the C, the k sound associates with that C symbol, that C letter. The A symbol, the a sound, and then the T symbol, or this funny symbol, which is the letter T, the t sound. And then obviously, if you want to get a little more creative, put a picture of a cat with it so they can actually see it too. But I think in this sense, it's visually actually breaking up the word based on its letter sound and kind of showing the students, okay, this is how we would break up each letter in a word. So k, a, t. The C, the A, the T make their own sounds in order to form the word, when you squish them together, to form the word cat. K, a, t, cat. So I think that's kind of what phonetic is trying to get at least with this definition. All right, next one, transitional. Focus on word patterns such as ait, shin, and ear. Obviously, there's probably more word patterns, but this is kind of one of the big ones because shin, ait, and ear, you see them in, you not only see them, but you hear them in different words, like dictation, write, hear, near. I'm trying to come up with different words, but transitional, at least, is focusing mostly on words with patterns, and it doesn't have. And I like to think it doesn't have to solely focus on like words that end in ait or ear or shin. There's multiple patterns of words that you can focus on, like the double O words, like you have the oo versus the sound, like wood versus wood, or actually no, it's double O versus OU, the different sounds that they make. But I think in this case, the transitional is what you're teaching your students. This is probably when they're like in second, third grade. You might actually be teaching them a bit younger, if anything. But each word has but some words follow specific patterns. So there's multiple patterns out there, even though there are exceptions to the rule, but there are different patterns in different words. That and it's important to teach students those different patterns, like the ait, the ear, the shin. But I think that's kind of what transitional is saying, is is make sure that when you get to this step, even though you might be in an older grades, you gotta teach words that have patterns in them. But that's kind of what transitional basically is make sure we focus on word patterns. There's a lot of word patterns. They're not just strictly the I, the shin, and the ear, even though that's what was listed. There's multiple. There's more than just that. So just make sure that we get the chance to teach students the different word patterns. And last but not least, we have the conventional. And the conventional definition states, when students spell 90% of words correctly, focus instruction on spelling lists of words students misspell. So, in this case, it's kind of like a spelling words list. At least when I think of this, I don't know if some of you, when you were in school, you had like a spelling words list. I remember doing that, having like a list of 10 or 20 words that we have to focus on for that week, or maybe 2 weeks, depending on the teacher that you have. But for me, I think it was every week we had like a list of 10 to 20 words, and some of them were focusing on like special patterns, or they were rhyming words and stuff like that. It wasn't so much as misspelled words. However, it is important to have students practice their misspelled words. The conventional way is basically just that. You're having students focus on a list of words that they might be misspelling or they don't understand real well. Whether that's because of certain rules or sorry, excuse me, had like dust in my mouth. Yeah, but it's like either specific rules or they just constantly misspell them over and over and over again. Sorry, it's like dusty in here. But basically, essentially for this one is like a spelling list. You have students have a spelling list of words, and they have to practice that over and over and over again until they can spell the words correctly. However, there's some teachers that are like, here, pick out the misspelled words of your own. In my opinion, I would try to refrain from doing that, because one, you don't want students just to start picking arbitrary words that, hey, you don't need to focus on that. Focus on these words. That's why, in my opinion, the conventional way, it's a good way. Have a spelling list for your students, but don't let them pick out their own spelling words. Obviously, if they all want to have their own spelling list, or the teacher creates their own spelling list, that's great. But don't let them have like, okay, I'm gonna pick like the words the and at. No, please don't. I think in this case, teachers be a little more selective on the type of students that you're giving this freedom to when it comes to the conventional. Because yes, it is good to give students spelling lists of words that students misspell. That's great. Because have them practice that over and over again for like a week or two, and then test them to see if they've improved or not. However, be mindful. I highly suggest don't let them pick their own words, or if you do let them pick their own words, use common sense and make sure they're picking out the words that you know for a fact they were struggling in. And if that means, you know what, giving them some extra words that weren't in their writing, or that's not in their spelling list, but it follows with the same pattern, do that too. But I would definitely be very mindful on how you do this conventional stage. I personally like the conventional stage because you are giving students a spelling list just to focus on, so they don't have to focus on, oh my gosh, I have to do all this other stuff. You're just giving them like a list of words for the week. And you can do this up until like 6th grade, in my opinion. But other than that, this is the spelling development, or the PSPHTC development, different stages, and kind of what I think they look like. And hopefully I answered the question correctly. And other than that, this is Amanda Fernandez signing off. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And yeah, this is for the last question of the final exam. Thank you so much. Goodbye.